I have another creepy story about Epping Forest. This comes from a lady who grew up living in this big tower block of flats that backed onto Epping Forest. She was growing up, her mum and dad used to allow her to play out till all hours of the night. However, she was always told that whatever you do, you don't go near the forest. And her two brothers, they always wanted to go in there. And they would always ask their mum and dad, like, why? Why can we not go in there? And eventually one day, their dad cracked and he tells them the story of Marjorie, a woman who used to live upstairs. So the story goes that Marjorie was one of the first residents that ever moved into this block of flats. She didn't have a husband, it was just her and her two dogs. And every night at 8 o'clock on the dot, she would go downstairs walking her two white dogs on red collars. You knew it was 8 o'clock when you heard a bang of Marjorie's door and then the clip clap of her little heels as she went down the stairs to walk her two beloved dogs. Until one day Marjorie goes missing. And everything leading up until that point had been normal, apart from she had been complaining that there was some sort of fox, big fox, in the forest, and that when her dogs would go in there and she would recall them, they just wouldn't come back. So this one night they hear Marjorie leave the house. They hear the slam of the door, they hear the clip clop of the heels. But 8:40 rolls around and there's no sign of her. So people start popping their heads out of their doors and kind of looking around like, where on earth could she be? And this woman is in her 80s, so people are concerned. But eventually when they all go back inside, they do in fact hear the bang of Marjorie's door close behind her, so they know that she's home. They don't hear the clip clop of her heels, but they hear the bang of the door. The next day, however, when the kids go outside to go to school, they end up finding a red collar, the lead that belongs to her dogs. And alarm bells start ringing, so a few of the residents call the police and they ask for a welfare check to be conducted on Marjorie. There's one problem. Marjorie technically hasn't even been missing for 24 hours, and so the police are reluctant to do anything at all. They come round, they agree that the lead looks kind of suspicious, they knock on the door, and when she doesn't answer, they leave and they say they'll come back. They don't come back, and the residents, they get increasingly worried. They haven't seen her. Eventually, after an entire week has passed, the police agree to take down the door so that they can get in and make sure this old lady is okay. And when they do get in there, they find Marjorie straight away. The studio flat was like a big open room, and straight in front of them was her dining room table. And there she was, sitting bolt upright. But Marjorie was not alive, and her dogs were nowhere to be found. Her death goes down on the report as natural causes, but nobody in the residence believes that for 1 second. In fact, they all start suspecting each other of some sort of foul play. There's not an ounce of evidence anywhere. There is cash on the side, there's expensive jewellery. Absolutely nothing about the scene looks suspicious, apart from the fact that the two dogs are completely gone. Nothing is left of them apart from one lead, which was found outside. Was one thing that the other residents noticed that the police didn't seem to think was of interest, and that was that every single crucifix in Marjorie's home had been turned upside down. And from time to time the residents would all get together and they would all exchange stories about that night when she went missing, and they would all say how weird it was that that night none of them heard the sound of her shoes go back up the stairs. They just heard the door shut. So how did she get back into the apartment without making that noise when she was found with shoes on? Some of them thought that maybe one of the foxes got hold of one of the dogs and she had like a heart attack and she went back into her apartment, and because she didn't have anybody to call, she just sat down and that happened. But a lot of the other residents felt like if she had needed help to find her dogs, she would have done some knocking on the way up, and they most definitely would have heard her heels on the way back up, but they never did. So the lady who messaged me found out about this story, and after her brothers found out about it, they never wanted to go into the woods, but some of their friends did, and some of the messages that they saw carved into the trees seemed to suggest that there was someone or something in those woods that you wouldn't want to come across alone in your old age or any other age. I'm going to go and play some Christmas music now to lighten the mood a little bit.